Most people do not own their life. They rent it. They rent the car. They rent the phone. They rent the apartment. They rent the lifestyle. They rent the image. They rent the comfort. And every month, the bill comes back to remind them who actually owns it. That is the trap. Because from the outside, it can look like success. Nice car, nice place, good clothes, new phone, good weekends, comfortable life. But behind the scenes, almost everything depends on the next payment. And if the payments stop, the lifestyle disappears. That is not ownership. That is renting your life. And this is one of the biggest differences between people who build wealth and people who only look like they are doing well. The rich own assets. Broke people rent their lifestyle. And that sentence sounds simple, but if you really understand it, money starts to look completely different. Because the goal is not just to have nice things. The goal is to own things that make you stronger. Assets, cash, investments, equity, businesses, skills, systems, things that keep value, things that grow, things that produce income, things that give you options. But most people are trained to do the opposite. They get money, then use it to rent a better version of today, a better apartment, a better car, a better phone, better restaurants, better subscriptions, better comfort, better image. And for a while, it feels like progress, but it is not always progress. Sometimes it is just a more expensive cage, because every upgrade that comes with a monthly payment gives you a better lifestyle, but less freedom. That is the part people miss. A payment does not look dangerous when it is small, $20 a month, $50 a month, $300 a month, $600 a month. It sounds manageable, but payments are not just numbers. Payments are claims on your future income. Every monthly payment is a piece of future you already sold. Before you even get paid next month, some of that paycheck is already gone. The car wants its piece. The phone wants its piece. The credit card wants its piece. The apartment wants its piece. The subscriptions want their piece. The lifestyle wants its piece. And then you get what is left. That is why people feel trapped even with decent income. They are not poor because they never make money. They are stuck because too much of their money is already rented out. This is why owning assets matters. An asset gives you power. A payment takes power away. An asset can grow while you sleep. A payment waits for you every month. An asset can give you income. A payment demands income. An asset can increase your options. A payment reduces your options. That is the difference. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. Two people can make the same income and live completely different financial lives. One person earns money and buys things that need more money every month. A bigger car payment, higher rent, more subscriptions, more lifestyle costs, more convenience, more debt. Their life looks better, but their freedom gets smaller. The other person earns money and buys things that grow. Index funds, a business, education, cash reserves, debt reduction, useful tools, assets that build future strength. Their life might look less impressive from the outside, but behind the scenes, they are becoming harder to control. That is real wealth, not looking rich, being harder to break. Because wealth is not only about what you can buy. Wealth is about what you can survive. Can you survive a bad month? Can you survive losing a job? Can you survive a surprise bill? Can you say no to a bad opportunity? Can you leave a bad situation? Can you make decisions without panic? That is what assets buy you, options. But a rented lifestyle buys the opposite, pressure. The more you rent your life, the more income you need just to stay in place. And that is where people get caught. They think they are climbing, but they are actually raising the cost of standing still. A nicer car does not just cost more once. It costs more every month. More insurance, more fuel, more repairs, more payments. A nicer apartment does not just feel better once. It raises the minimum cost of your life. A better lifestyle does not just make you feel successful. It creates a new baseline. And once your baseline moves up, going back feels painful. That is how comfort becomes a trap. You upgrade your life. Then your upgraded life starts demanding rent from you every month. And now you have to keep earning just to protect the upgrade. That is not freedom. That is lifestyle maintenance. This is why some people make more money and feel less free. Their income rises, but their obligations rise faster. More money comes in, but more money is required. The paycheck gets bigger, but the gap stays small. And if the gap stays small, wealth cannot grow. Because wealth lives in the gap between what you earn and what you need to spend. That gap becomes savings. That gap becomes investments. That gap becomes debt freedom. That gap becomes time. That gap becomes peace. But when you rent your lifestyle, the gap gets eaten. And once the gap is gone, you are working for the lifestyle, not the other way around. This is where people confuse access with ownership. You can access a nice car without owning wealth. You can access a nice apartment without owning wealth. You can access expensive clothes without owning wealth. You can access vacations, restaurants, gadgets, and comfort without owning wealth. Credit gives access. Payments give access. Debt gives access. But access is not ownership. Access can disappear the moment the payments stop. Ownership stays with you. That is the difference. And modern life is built to blur that difference. Everything is monthly now. Phones, cars, software, streaming, furniture, clothes, gyms, food. Even things people used to buy once are now turned into payments. Because companies understand something very simple. If they can turn your lifestyle into a subscription, they can keep collecting from you forever. They do not want one purchase. They want a monthly claim on your life. And most people accept it because the payment looks smaller than the full price. That is the trick. A big cost feels scary. A small monthly payment feels harmless. But enough harmless payments can destroy your freedom. Not all at once. Slowly. Quietly. Automatically. That is why people wake up one day and wonder why they feel stuck. Nothing huge happened. No massive disaster. No single stupid decision. Just years of small commitments. Years of renting comfort, years of upgrading normal, years of letting the future pay for the present, and now the present is expensive. This does not mean every monthly payment is evil. You need housing. You might need transport. Some subscriptions are useful. Some convenience is worth it. This is not about pretending you should own everything or live like a robot. The point is not to avoid every cost. The point is to understand what your costs are doing to your freedom, because there are two types of spending. Spending that makes your life stronger, and spending that makes your life harder to maintain. The problem is that both can feel good in the moment. Buying an asset can feel boring. Buying a liability can feel exciting. Saving money can feel slow. Upgrading your lifestyle can feel instant. Investing can feel invisible. A new car is very visible. That is why looking rich is easier than becoming rich. Looking rich gives you feedback now. People notice. You notice. It feels real. Becoming rich is quieter. Nobody sees the automatic transfer. Nobody sees the emergency fund. Nobody claps when you avoid a payment. Nobody compliments your lower fixed costs. Nobody sees the assets stacking in the background. But those invisible moves are the ones that change your life. The loud moves often just make life more expensive. That is why you have to ask a better question. Not, can I afford this payment? That is the beginner question. The better question is, what does this payment do to my future freedom? Because almost anyone can afford something on paper if the payment is stretched long enough. But affordability is not the same as strength. A payment can be affordable and still make you weaker. A lifestyle can be normal and still keep you trapped. A purchase can be approved and still be a bad move. That is where people lose. They ask if they can make the payment. They do not ask what the payment prevents. Maybe it prevents saving. Maybe it prevents investing. Maybe it prevents leaving a bad job. Maybe it prevents building an emergency fund. Maybe it prevents taking a risk. Maybe it prevents sleeping peacefully. That hidden cost is usually bigger than the payment itself. Because when your money is locked into maintaining a lifestyle, it cannot be used to build freedom. So what should you do? First, separate ownership from access. Ask yourself, do I own this? Or am I paying every month just to keep using it? That question alone can change how you see your lifestyle. Second, look at your fixed costs, not your random spending first, your fixed costs. Because fixed costs are the cage, they repeat, they wait for you. They create the minimum cost of your life: rent, car payment, debt, insurance, subscriptions, phone, anything that comes back every month. If your fixed costs are too high, your freedom will feel low. Third, start buying assets before you upgrade lifestyle. This is where most people get it backwards. They try to look wealthy before they build wealth. But the better move is to build the machine first: cash buffer, investments, debt reduction, skills, income producing assets. Then lifestyle can grow from strength, not pressure. Fourth, protect the gap. Every time your income goes up, do not let your lifestyle immediately eat the raise. Keep some of the increase, invest some, save some, pay off debt faster. Use the raise to buy future freedom, not just a more expensive normal. Because if every raise becomes a new payment, you will always feel like you need the next raise. Fifth, stop confusing comfort with freedom. Comfort is nice, but comfort that depends on constant payments is fragile. Freedom is different. Freedom is having room, options, cash, assets, low pressure, a life that does not collapse if one thing goes wrong. That is what you should be building, because the goal is not to never enjoy money. The goal is to stop using money to rent a life that keeps you trapped. There is a huge difference between enjoying your money and needing every dollar to keep your image alive. One is choice, the other is pressure, and wealth is about choice. That is why the rich own assets, not because they hate nice things, but because assets make the nice things easier to afford later. Assets create room, assets create income, assets create control. Assets can pay for lifestyle without destroying the foundation. But if you build lifestyle first, the lifestyle becomes the foundation. And that foundation is weak because it needs constant payments to survive. So here's the final thought. If your lifestyle disappears the moment the payments stop, you may not own your life yet. You may be renting it. And the problem with renting your whole lifestyle is that it keeps you working just to keep access to the same life. But when you start owning assets, even small ones, something changes. Your money stops only leaving. It starts staying. It starts growing. It starts protecting you. It starts giving you options. And that is how you slowly stop renting your life and start owning your future. Subscribe for more simple animated finance videos.